What if the person behind one of Jacksonville's most shocking murders has finally spoken, and what she's saying could change everything? Alicia Andrews, the woman who was behind the wheel the night Julio Foolio was ambushed, is finally breaking her silence, and her story points directly at people no one expected. From jealousy, ambition, to secrets that run deep in the streets. This isn't just a murder story, it's a conspiracy waiting to be uncovered. You won't believe what she revealed. Rumors had been floating around for a while, whispers on the streets that something big was about to break. People had been talking, and it wasn't long before the truth started to emerge. It all came to a head on my birthday, and looking back, I couldn't help but feel how unfortunate the situation really was. I'd even interviewed both brothers before, and the thought of how close things came to spiraling out of control was chilling. Julio Foolio's murder, however, took a shocking turn that nobody saw coming. After months of silence, the only woman directly connected to the crime finally broke her silence, and what she revealed sent shockwaves through both the streets and the justice system. Her story points squarely at Yungeen Ace, with the claim that Ace himself orchestrated the hit that would take Foolio's life. That woman is Alicia Andrews, the girlfriend of Isaiah Chance Jr., better known as Gouda Zay, and the person police say was behind the wheel the night Julio was ambushed. Alicia's involvement had been suspected, but until now, no one had really heard her side of the story, or at least the part she was willing to share. According to investigators, she allegedly played a key role, logging Foolio's movements, communicating with the shooters, and providing critical information that made the attack possible. On October 31st, 2025, her case reached a turning point. The gavel fell and she was convicted of manslaughter, a lesser charge than murder. Official court records from the 13th Judicial Circuit of Florida in Hillsborough County show State of Florida versus Alicia LaToya Andrews. Case number 24 CF1911996, Trial Division 1 verdict form. The jury concluded that Alicia was guilty of manslaughter, a lesser-included offense, but the verdict didn't erase the weight of her involvement. Her defense team painted a very different picture of her role. They argued that Alicia was not some hardened criminal mastermind. She was, they claimed, a young woman trapped in a dangerous situation, manipulated and controlled by her abusive boyfriend, Isaiah. They said Isaiah forced her to use her car and phone to track Julio's movements that night, and she had no idea that he and his crew were planning to kill him. According to them, Alicia's actions were about survival, not malice, and that she had been coerced into a life-or-death scenario she didn't fully understand. The prosecution, however, described her as a cold and calculating figure, someone with gang affiliations, bright red hair, tattoos, and connections to dangerous individuals. To them, she was complicit in a carefully executed plan. But outside the courtroom, reality looked different. Alicia, as seen by those who watched her testify, was a young woman, well-spoken, calm, and remarkably composed. She wasn't the ruthless gang queen pin some tried to paint her as. She was someone caught in a violent world she hadn't chosen, forced to follow orders to protect herself. Adding complexity to her story, Alicia allegedly gave birth while in custody. Her defense argued that the jury should consider her need to raise her child, a point that may have influenced the decision to convict on manslaughter rather than a harsher charge. But the streets weren't convinced. People watching her during the verdict said she showed little emotion, no tears, no flinching. To some, that calm demeanor suggested knowledge beyond what she admitted. Others argued it was simply survival, the kind of composure you need when navigating the dangerous situations she had lived through. Now, with her conviction in place and seemingly nothing left to lose, word is Alicia has started talking more openly. Investigators allege that she's sharing details about the night of the murder, shedding light on why Foolio was targeted and what led up to the deadly attack. Rumors swirling in Jacksonville suggest the motive wasn't just personal beef or old diss tracks, it was a complex mix of jealousy, envy, and ambition. Alicia reportedly told authorities that the tension between Foolio and Ace was deeply personal. Ace allegedly felt overshadowed by Foolio, who had earned the respect of the streets by staying authentic, living the life he rapped about, and maintaining credibility even in the face of danger. While Ace's mainstream career was growing, Foolio's influence in the streets was undeniable. He was seen as the real one, someone who had survived the harsh realities of Jacksonville and turned that struggle into music that resonated with his community. He survived multiple violent encounters, including gunshot wounds, and he carried himself fearlessly. People respected that, and even his enemies recognized it. That combination of authenticity, business ambition, and loyalty made him a threat, and ultimately, it may have contributed to the deadly decision against him. According to reports, Alicia and Isaiah allegedly tracked Foolio meticulously. On the night of June 23, 2024, she drove through neighborhoods, logging his movements and providing updates to hitmen waiting nearby. Isaiah, aka Gudeze, reportedly coordinated the operation, supplying information to Rashad Murphy, Dave Murphy, and Sean Gathright. Gathright, a Mississippi man with no gang ties, was allegedly the shooter, a hired hand brought in for one purpose. Despite Foolio's precautions, switching hotels and trying to stay off social media, he couldn't escape. His live posts inadvertently gave away his location, and within minutes, the hit was executed. Security footage captured cars circling the lot before shots rang out, quick and precise, leaving the streets in stunned silence. The aftermath revealed just how coordinated the attack had been. Police documents reportedly show Rashad texting from a borrowed phone afterward. Thirst quenched. But Alicia's alleged statements suggest there was more at play than revenge. Sources say Yungeen Ace may have known of the setup ahead of time, not directly pulling the trigger but benefiting from Foolio being removed from the streets. Foolio's rise, turning street fame into business influence, posed a threat to others who saw him as competition. Alicia's testimony has opened the door for further investigation. She allegedly hinted that Yungeen Ace's team had been tracking Foolio for months. Her words could uncover new names and reveal layers of planning that point to a broader conspiracy. For now, the streets and authorities alike are watching closely, waiting to see how much more of the truth she will reveal and what that means for everyone involved. On October 31, 2025, the courtroom fell silent as the gavel came down. Alicia Andrews had been convicted of manslaughter, a lesser charge in the long, drawn-out case that had captured the attention of both the streets and the media. The official records from the 13th Judicial Circuit of Florida in Hillsborough County are clear. State of Florida versus Alicia Latoya Andrews, case number 24 CF1911996, Trial Division 1 verdict form. The jury's decision was decisive. Alicia was guilty of manslaughter, a lesser-included offense, but the ruling left many feeling a mix of relief, frustration, and disbelief. For months, Alicia's trial had been a tense, high-stakes drama. From the very beginning, the defense and prosecution painted starkly different pictures of who she was and what role she played in the murder of Julio Foolio. Her defense team portrayed her as a young woman, caught in a perilous situation, manipulated and controlled by her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance Jr., also known as Gudeze. They argued that Alicia was not some criminal mastermind plotting murder, but a scared individual doing what she was told to survive. She allegedly had no knowledge that the night she drove her car, tracked Foolio, and communicated with others would culminate in his death. Her defense emphasized her humanity. Alicia was described as well-spoken, mild-mannered, and composed, not a hardened criminal. The attorneys highlighted her youth, her bravery, and the fact that she had given birth while in custody. They painted a picture of a woman who needed to be around for her newborn, a plea to consider her role as a mother when weighing the verdict. For many, this aspect of her life humanized her and may have influenced the jury's decision to convict on manslaughter rather than a first-degree murder charge. The prosecution, however, argued a very different narrative. Alicia, in their view, was not an innocent bystander. They presented her as someone entangled in the criminal underworld, tied to gangs and dangerous individuals, and allegedly aware of the plan to kill Foolio. They painted a picture of her as calculating and connected, highlighting her supposed knowledge and participation in tracking Foolio's movements and feeding information to the shooters. To them, she was a key player, and her involvement could not be dismissed as mere coercion. When the verdict was read, Alicia's calm demeanor caught attention. She neither flinched nor shed tears, leading some in the courtroom and on the streets to speculate about her awareness of the bigger picture. While some saw her composure as a sign of innocence or shock, others whispered that it suggested a deeper understanding of the events and the people involved. Regardless of perception, the verdict marked a significant turning point in the case. With her manslaughter conviction now official, the streets and authorities alike were left wondering what Alicia would do next. Some speculated that she might cooperate to Jacksonville and reverberated far beyond its streets. Her defense painted a completely different picture of Alicia Andrews, one far removed from the narrative the prosecution tried to paint. They argued that she wasn't a cold, calculating criminal or a mastermind orchestrating violence. Instead, they described her as a young woman caught in circumstances far beyond her control, someone living in fear of a partner who held power over her life. According to her attorneys, Alicia was manipulated and coerced by her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance Jr., better known in some circles as Gudeze. They explained that Alicia's involvement in Julio Foolio's murder wasn't born out of malice or ambition. It was born out of fear. Isaiah allegedly forced her to track Julio's movements using her car and phone. Every route she drove, every update she sent, the defense argued was done under duress, with little room for her to refuse. She reportedly had no knowledge that the information she was providing would be used to plan an ambush, and certainly no awareness that her actions could directly result in Julio's death. Throughout the trial, the defense emphasized her youth and vulnerability. Alicia was portrayed as a woman who had been thrust into a dangerous world of criminal activity while trying to survive. They argued that her compliance with Isaiah's demands was a desperate attempt to protect herself, not a sign of guilt or cold calculation. Her lawyers repeatedly reminded the jury that manipulation and fear can make ordinary people act in extraordinary circumstances, and that Alicia was, above all, a human being caught between loyalty, fear, and survival. The defense also highlighted her demeanor during the trial. Alicia's calm, composed behavior on the stand, they argued, was not evidence of guilt but of strength and resilience. They painted a picture of a woman forced to navigate an impossible situation, maintaining her composure while recounting a night that had ended in tragedy. In addition, her defense team brought in the element of her personal life to humanize her further. They spoke of the pregnancy she endured while in custody and stressed that she was a mother now, someone who needed a chance to raise her child. The argument was that Alicia's actions had not been voluntary or malicious, but the result of coercion and intimidation, and that her life circumstances demanded careful consideration in determining her culpability. In the eyes of her defense, Alicia wasn't the villain. She was a young woman caught in the crossfire of violence, trying to survive in a world that had left her with little choice. The prosecution had a very different view of Alicia. They described her as a ruthless, gang-affiliated figure, red-haired, tattooed, and surrounded by criminal associates. But that perception didn't match reality. Alicia is a young woman, well-spoken, mild-mannered, and remarkably strong. On the stand, she came across as respectful and composed, not a gang member, but someone caught in a dangerous situation beyond her control. While Ace might have been climbing the charts, Julio had street credibility that couldn't be bought. He turned his struggles into music, faced danger head-on, and survived hit after hit since he was 15. Even after being shot multiple times and seeing his mother injured just for sharing his last name, he never hid or ran. In 2018, he survived 8 gunshot wounds and openly admitted he had enemies who wanted him gone, but he refused to flee his home. People had asked if certain viral images were real. They were. Julio broke multiple bones, yet he never backed down. He could have left Jacksonville, could have escaped the constant threats, but he chose to stay. That pride, that refusal to run from his own hood, is exactly what earned him both respect and enemies in equal measure. For years, Fio walked a tightrope between survival and success. In Jacksonville, most of the big-name rappers had left town, traveling, building careers elsewhere, but Fio stayed. He loved his city, even when it meant facing constant danger. He thought about the friends he'd lost, the brothers stuck in the system, and the streets he knew like the back of his hand. That loyalty and love for his city set him apart, but it's also what allegedly triggered Ace. Sources say Ace couldn't handle seeing Fio crowned by the streets as the most authentic. It wasn't just jealousy over fame, it ran deeper. Fio wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. He was branching into legitimate business, planning his own independent label, working on a docu-series, and even discussing a Florida tour that could have skyrocketed his profile. While Ace's name was rising in mainstream circles, the streets were whispering that Fio still held the crown. Real recognized real, and even his enemies admitted he had something special. That blend of authenticity, loyalty, and ambition made him dangerous. And ultimately, that's what allegedly sealed his fate. June 23, 2024 is a date that changed everything. Alicia and Isaiah were allegedly tailing Fio that night, monitoring his every move. Police reports say she drove in circles, texting updates to hitmen waiting nearby. Alicia wasn't acting alone. Isaiah, aka Gudeze, allegedly fed information to Rashad Murphy, Dave Murphy, and Sean Gathright, the same men now facing possible death sentences. Gathright, a man from Mississippi with no gang ties, is said to have been the hired shooter. Foolio was in Tampa celebrating his birthday, and even tried switching hotels to stay off the radar. But his live post gave him away. Within minutes, the operation was in motion. Security cameras captured cars circling the lot, and soon after, the shots rang out. The hit was precise, fast, and silent. The streets went quiet. Afterward, police documents show Rashad texted from a borrowed phone, thirst quenched. But according to Alicia's alleged account, there was more to it than revenge. She claims that Yungeen Ace might have known about the plan beforehand. Not that they pulled the trigger themselves, but that they had knowledge of it and possibly stood to gain from Foolio being out of the way. Foolio's growing empire, turning street credibility into real business, threatened others' control and influence, especially those who already saw him as competition. Was it about pride, power, or both? Alicia's story hints at a chaotic mix of motives. She admitted she didn't know every detail, but heard enough. How Isaiah and his cousin talked about making it right for Spaz, Rashad's younger brother. Spaz's grave had allegedly been disrespected by Foolio's crew, and revenge hung in the air. What made this hit different was the coordination, patience, and professionalism. Even detectives and street insiders agreed. Bigger players were likely pulling strings behind the scenes. Since the verdict, Alicia has been painted as the weak link, but sources say she might cooperate further. She's allegedly already hinted that Ace's team had been tracking Foolio's movements long before the hit. With her speaking now, more names and deeper layers of this story could still come to light. Meanwhile, Rashad sits in his cell acting like he's in full control, representing himself in court and refusing a lawyer. The judge warned him that his choices could cost him his life, but he seems unfazed. The downside? The death penalty. Yet he's already filed all the paperwork and declared he's ready to fight solo. The streets say he's not just acting reckless, he's scared. Scared of what happens once names start leaking, because that's when the real danger begins. And the way everything flipped after Foolio's death makes it even more intense. Right after the news dropped, Yungeen Ace went on a podcast with academics, calling Foolio his brother and saying they cried when they heard the news. The same people who had dropped diss tracks months before. The same people who mocked Foolio in lyrics and interviews. It was a sudden turn, and the streets noticed. Some say it wasn't genuine grief, but guilt masked as sorrow. Maybe a warning sign that Young knew something was coming and was trying to play the nice card before it was too late. Now, all eyes are on the courtroom and on the streets, because Alicia's verdict might have just cracked the case wide open. The burning question lingering in everyone's minds. With Young and Ace's names still floating in whispers, how long before the feds get involved? And was Julio's murder really about revenge? Or was it a calculated business move disguised as beef? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more stories straight from the hood, where every detail counts and the truth is never simple.